It was the summer of 2018, and I had embarked on a backpacking adventure through Europe. As a budget traveler, hostels were my go-to choice for accommodation. Little did I know that one fateful night in Prague, I would experience a hostel horror story. The city of Prague was enchanting, and I had checked into a cozy hostel named the Bohemian Hideaway, or something like that. I was excited to explore the rich history of the city during the day and make new friends from around the world at night. Little did I know that one of those newfound companions would lead me to an experience I'd never forget. On my second night at the hostel, I met a guy named Alex. He was in his mid-20s with shaggy hair and a friendly personality. We instantly hit it off. Sharing stories of our travels and dreams, he seemed like the perfect hostel roommate. We agreed to share a dorm room to save some cash, and I was relieved to have found a travel buddy. The first couple of nights were great. We explored Prague together, visiting iconic landmarks and savoring local cuisine. However, as the days passed, I started noticing peculiar behavior in Alex. He seemed secretive, constantly glued to his phone, and whispered on lengthy phone calls in languages I couldn't understand. His once friendly appearance had shifted into a complete silence. One evening, as I was getting ready to head out for dinner, I noticed a piece of paper sticking out from under Alex's backpack. Curiosity got the best of me, and I couldn't resist taking a peek. The paper was a crumpled note written in a language I couldn't read. The more I observed Alex, the more I felt something was terribly wrong. He had stopped going out during the day, spending most of his time locked in our dorm room, which he'd meticulously kept locked. The atmosphere in the room felt oppressive. One night, unable to sleep, I decided to investigate further. As I rummaged through his belongings, I stumbled upon a hidden compartment in his backpack. Inside, I found a stack of passports, each with a different name and nationality. Terrified, I began to piece together the puzzle. It seemed Alex was involved in some sort of identity theft or forgery operation. Those mysterious phone calls and the coded notes were undoubtedly part of his stealthy activities. I felt trapped, torn between wanting to expose him and fearing the consequences. The next morning, as I contemplated my next move, a knock on the door startled me. It was a pair of stern-looking policemen who had received a tip about suspicious activities at the hostel. They wanted to inspect our room, and I knew I had to cooperate. Inside the room, they discovered forged passports, counterfeit money, and an array of fake IDs. It was a den of crime right under my nose, and my stomach churned with fear as I realized I had been sharing a room with a criminal. Alex was promptly arrested and I was taken in for questioning. The police assured me that I wasn't a suspect, but I couldn't help but feel like I had narrowly escaped a dangerous situation. The horror of that experience, the feeling of being an unwitting accomplice, stayed with me for the rest of my journey. In the end, I left the Bohemian Hideaway with a renewed sense of caution and a determination to trust my instincts when meeting new people on my travels. It was a hostel horror story unlike any other, a real-life encounter with the dark side of human nature, hidden behind the facade of a charming backpacker. That night in Prague, I learned a valuable lesson. Sometimes the most frightening stories aren't found in the pages of a horror book or on a movie screen. They unfold in the most unexpected places, with the most unexpected people. As travelers, we're drawn to hostels for their promise of adventure and camaraderie, but we must always be cautious. My girlfriend and I went on an adventure through Southeast Asia. The journey led us to a hostel in the heart of Siem Reap, Cambodia, a town known for its ancient temples and vibrant street markets. The hostel was a small building with colorful lanterns and a welcoming atmosphere. We were assigned to a small dormitory with 3 bunk beds. Our roommate for the night was a friendly Dutch woman, Isabella. We quickly struck up a conversation of our plans for the following day. As the sun dipped below the horizon, we returned to the hostel after a day of exploring the nearby temples. It was a humid night, and the faint hum of the ceiling fan provided some relief from the stifling heat. We settled into our bunks, and I dozed off with the comforting sound of distant laughter from the hostel's common area. Around 3 a.m., I was awakened by an inexplicable chill that seemed to engulf the room. I shivered beneath my thin sheet, confused as to how a tropical night could become so cold. "Is it just me, or is it freezing in here?" my girlfriend whispered. We huddled together, seeking each other's warmth. We didn't think Isabella was awake, but out of nowhere she just told us that she had turned the air conditioning to blow out 12 degrees Celsius air because she felt too warm. We turned around and looked at her, She was extremely pale and just sat in a bra and panties up against the wall. We asked her politely to turn it up. She turned up the heat and we went back to bed. We didn't get much sleep before the most horrific thing happened. Around 1 hour later at 4 a.m., I heard a voice saying,
"Help me, please, help me."
I was so tired I thought it was a dream or something because I went straight back to sleep. But it wasn't a dream. My girlfriend also heard it, and luckily she woke up. The haunting melody from the air conditioner, which she apparently had turned back on to blow out cold air, continued. I then shortly after woke up to a deafening scream. It was my girlfriend. She turned around and started shaking me, and I was in such a deep sleep that it scared the hell out of me. She told me to go help Isabella quickly, but I was half asleep and so confused. She yelled that I had to go help Isabella. I looked over at Isabella and saw her hanging from the top of the bunk bed with the bedsheet around her neck. It hadn't snapped her neck, so she just hung there and slowly got her breath taken away, with her arms straight out in the air, reaching for help. I rushed over to her and lifted her up in the air while my girlfriend untied it from her neck. We got her down and I laid her down on the bed. We contacted the front desk and explained that we needed help. The night manager arrived within minutes. She called an ambulance who could check up on her. Isabella was rushed to the hospital, and after a few days we were contacted by her. She told us that she had been dealing with depression for a long time and just couldn't take it anymore. She was sorry that we had to be a part of it, but was grateful for what we did and that she didn't die that night. Morocco, with its fascinating history, eye-catching colors, and heady scents, has always been a dream destination for me. I was finally exploring Marrakesh's captivating streets after weeks of waiting. I selected a well-liked hostel among the Medina's winding lanes, which is well known for its rooftop views and classic Moroccan architecture. The initial days were very extraordinary. I became friends with other tourists, indulged in delicious regional food, and got lost in the hustle and bustle of Jama'a El Fna Square. But soon enough, something would change the way I saw this fascinating city. In the hostel, I met Hakim, a tall, dark-haired man, during my third night there. He explained he was a local, providing guided tours of the less-traveled passageways in the Medina. A few of us from the hostel decided to accept his offer since we were intrigued. The tour started beneath a blanket of stars, the moon creating long shadows across the cobblestone streets. Hakim took us along meandering streets while telling us stories about Marrakesh's past. But as the night grew longer, I began to feel nervous. Hakim's stories took a darker turn, cantered on tales of being betrayed, lost souls, and ancient curses as the passageways grew more confined and unfamiliar. It was obvious that we had become lost by midnight. We sort of stopped our energetic chat as we attempted to find ways to get back. Hakim seemed to change in a way, and his tales had stopped altogether. The poorly lighted alleys took on the feel of a maze, and we were beginning to feel increasingly uneasy. Out of nowhere, two people stepped out in front of us in the alley and blocked our way. They just stood right in front of us and said nothing and wouldn't let us pass by them, so we turned around. When we turned around, three other guys stood behind us. We turned to Hakim, but he had casually gone by the two guys and was now gone. The men told us to comply with their request and nothing would happen. They robbed us. They told us to give all our belongings to them. They let us go, and we asked locals to help us find our way back to the hostel. When we got back, we informed the hostel's administration. We showed them a picture of Hakim, which we had taken on our guided tour. They told us there was nothing to do, and they had no idea who he was. The very next day, as we entered the lobby, we saw Hakim at the reception desk, getting handed out some dorm numbers. About 10 minutes later, Hakim enters the lobby again, but with a new group of tourists. We confronted the person at the reception and said that he was the guy who tricked us. She just said she had no idea what we talked about, and it all sort of fell into pieces. We came to believe that Hakim and the hostel worked together to find tourists who wanted to explore, only to lure them and rob them. We contacted the local authorities about the incident we had. It was hard to communicate with them as they didn't understand English very well, but I believe they said they would look into it.